Quick question. What if the stat everyone ignores is actually the strongest one? He leveled up again and again, but stayed weak. No strength, no magic, no growth. So he made one insane decision. He dumped everything into luck. And that's when the entire system broke. This is where the story begins. Amachi Shoyuda counts the slimes he has destroyed. 94, 95. He spots another one, the 96th. It suffers the same fate as its brethren. A swing of the sword, and the creature's life is cut short. The main character is in dungeon number 777, better known as the Hole of Failure. 7 years ago, dungeons began to appear on Earth, and this one appeared quite recently, and it is only 1 floor long. Of the monsters in this place, the main character only managed to encounter blue slimes. These creatures do not possess magic. A normal blow is enough to defeat these weak monsters. Pulling his weapon from his belt, Amachi cut down the 97 slime with a familiar movement. Even children can handle these creatures. The main character picked up a tiny magic stone left behind by the slime. At first, after the dungeons appeared, chaos reigned on Earth and panic ensued. No wonder, since all sorts of creatures had come to the surface. But by the 7th year, all countries had developed ways to control the situation. Now a more or less peaceful time has come, ideal for exploring the dungeons. The Hole of Failure differed from other places in that it had no boss and only one type of monster. This dungeon attracted gambling addicts, adventurers, and explorers stubbornly searching for some kind of treasure. But now the Hole of Failure was completely deserted, which made it seem even more eerie. The place had fallen out of favor. Amachi has been going to dungeon 777 for 3 years since graduating from school. Every day is the same, with the main character walking the same path all the time. This is because farming slimes is the easiest option. However, only slimes inhabit the Hole of Failure. When the dungeons appeared, people gained the ability to see their status. It consists of 7 points: strength, agility, endurance, speed, magic, intelligence, and finally, luck. Amachi called up his status window. His highest stat was luck. Some characteristics are improved through persistent training, while others grow as you read books or create beauty. But the best way is to exterminate monsters. This is exactly what the main character does, trying to improve his level. Turning around, the main character spots another slime and slays his 98th monster. As his level increases, his base stats go up, and he gets stat points that he can spend on upgrading the abilities he wants. But, unfortunately for Amachi, luck alone cannot raise his level. You can only grow by using stat points. The main character was unlucky from the very first stat. Level increase, ability increase, stat growth, even points. He got this condition. When the level increases, each stat increases by 1 and 2 points are added. All of the main character's stats were too low compared to his peers. Amachi cuts down the 99 slime. He exhales, looking at his sword, and decides to calm down. The main character is always nervous when he reaches the 99th monster. For everyone else, when they level up, their stats increase by a minimum of 1 and a maximum of 5 points. Only Amachi's stats increased by exactly 1 point from the very beginning. In this situation, the main character will struggle to defeat a goblin, which is only slightly stronger than a slime. The main character has no choice but to hunt slimes. Amachi spots the last 100th slime. Laughing, he rushes at the monster. Even with an opponent of equal strength, the main character will not be able to cope. That's just how it is. 7 years have passed since the dungeons appeared, and new information about these places has emerged. Along with this, a rumor spread that put an end to the main character's future. Rumor has it that his growth rate will only decrease over time and will never exceed its initial value. Amachi tries to stop panicking with an effort of will. He orders himself to calm down. He sneaks up on the slime, which doesn't notice him. The main character assures himself that he can handle this. When a main character first heard this rumor, he was in utter despair. Amachi realized that he would never be able to become an adventurer. He slid down the wall to the floor and grabbed his head. Even if the main character gives up his dream of adventure, no company will accept him with such low stats. After all, status is now the most important thing in the world. To rise from the bottom where the main character found himself, all he could do was farm and farm. So Amachi continued to hunt slugs. Until one day, he had a revelation. It seems he managed to discover one secret of the dungeon. On one of his expeditions, the main character stumbled upon the 100th monster. He hastily pulled his sword from its sheath, swung it, and killed the last monster. Folding his hands, the main character desperately prayed for luck. The thing is, there's a very small chance that after destroying the 100th creature, monsters of a completely different kind will appear. With a beaming smile, Amachi stared at the slime dreaming in front of him. It was not the usual blue, but a new, azure color. As it turned out, no one had ever encountered such a creature before. When a main character first discovered it, he searched through all the bestiaries in the library, but found no mention of an azure slime. Therefore, Amachi decided to give this name to his discovery. After this incident, the main character began to invest all his points in what seemed to be such useless luck. He squeezed everything he could out of his points to level up without stopping. Because of this, his other stats began to lag behind. It will still be difficult for the main character to fight due to his low stats, but that doesn't stop him. Amachi continues to level up his luck to the max. He even feels like his chances of encountering a blue slime have increased. Smiling broadly, the main character thinks that if he posts an article about his discovery, he will become popular despite his status. But the main character immediately slaps himself on the cheeks, cursing. Under no circumstances should he write an article, or else a crowd of onlookers eager for profit will descend on the dungeon. Some time passes. After defeating another slime, Amachi thinks. He notices that now, after killing every 100th monster, he has a 3 in 5 chance of encountering azure creatures. He sighed with delight. The main character examines the slime that has appeared before him, now green in color. As soon as the azure creatures began to appear all the time, new ones, green in color, spawned. The main character is curious to find out his limits. After all, the entire abandoned dungeon is his personal farming zone. The main character decides to unravel all the secrets of the Hole of Failure and show everyone what he is worth. Sending the others away, Amachi continues to deal with the slimes. He would never trade his personal farming spot for some pointless views. Cheering himself up, the main character gets to work with renewed vigor. Soon, Amachi has encountered slimes of various colors and has come to some conclusions. Green can be seen in about 2 or 3 cases out of 20 after defeating it. Purple ones, if you're very lucky, can be found only once in 10 cases after defeating them. White slime is an extremely rare guest. The main character has only seen it once in all his time. The shocked main character even discovered black slime. However, he hasn't seen it in 6 months. Stumbling upon the black creature and laughing nervously, Amachi draws his weapon. Now he is even more excited than before. The main character desperately prays that the 7th time will finally be his lucky charm. The main character fervently asks for the next slime to appear. With these words, Amachi pierces the monster. The entire dungeon is enveloped in thick smoke. The main character can't see anything and starts coughing. But then the smoke clears, and the protagonist's attention is drawn to a bright glow. He doesn't understand what is happening, but then he notices the slime. Amachi is deeply shocked. Not only is this slime iridescent, but it is also huge. The main character leans over the slime. This monster looks unusual. It is rainbow-colored and glowing. The main character has never seen anything like it before. He sighs, realizing he has a 1 in a million chance. Amachi is about to take a picture of the creature, but he stops himself. As far as he knows, rare monsters run extremely fast. The main character has come so far to get this lucky, he's not going to let the slime get away. The main character cuts the monster with his sword. Several magic stones fall out of the slime. With slight disappointment, the main character notices that the slime, as always, did not put up the slightest resistance. Amachi wonders if all creatures of this species are like this. Suddenly, an object falls to the floor with a loud thud. Confused, the main character looks up, distracted from his thoughts. The ball lights up and rises into the air. The delighted main character realizes that he is looking at a real skill sphere. Letting go of his sword, Amachi smiles happily. Skill spheres occasionally drop from rare monsters. It is an expensive item that can only be found in high-level dungeons. If you use the sphere, you can gain a skill. The main character can't believe that his efforts will finally be rewarded. Even though 10 years have passed since the dungeons appeared, the rarity and value of skill spheres have not diminished in the slightest. Any ability gained from them can make the owner richer. But this sphere is the fruit of Amachi's labor, everything he has achieved on his own. He has no intention of giving it to anyone. The main character reaches out and grabs the skill sphere. A message appears asking whether to use the item. The main character has already made up his mind, so he uses the sphere. A new notification congratulates Amachi on acquiring a skill called Level Gacha. He opens his eyes in surprise. He has no idea what this skill is. He has never even heard of it. From the name, it's clear that it's suitable for gambling addicts. The principle is the same as in games or vending machines. Something like this was to be expected from dungeon number 777. The main character decides that he has nothing to lose and chooses to activate the skill. The glow once again envelopes the small pedestal. The astonished main character looks at what the skill has brought him. In front of him stands a machine inviting him to win fabulous prizes on one condition. He must sacrifice his levels. Amachi doesn't understand what this nonsense is all about. The main character carefully examines the machine. The information says that there are 100 points left in the slot. If you make 10 spins, you'll get 10 items, and at least one item with characteristic points is guaranteed. If you choose one spin, you will get one item, and it will be tier R or higher. After a moment's hesitation, the main character decides that this is exactly what he would expect from a gacha. He feels the machine and concludes that there seem to be less than 100 items in it. Of course, in the 10 years since the dungeons first appeared, science has advanced considerably thanks to research into skills and magic. However, gacha level is unlike any item Amachi has ever encountered. He decides not to think about it. After all, skills are beyond human understanding. Until the main character tries it, he won't know what kind of machine he is. He ponders which option to choose. The main character is currently at level 31. Amachi seriously doubts that he will fall below the first or starting level. However, this level is the result of 3 years of hard work. It's upsetting to realize that it could disappear with just 3 button presses. After all, real time and effort were spent on it. The main character thinks about stopping at 1 spin. He doesn't really believe that he will be able to knock out an item with characteristic points in 10 spins, even though it is guaranteed. The main character grabs his own hand. The conditions don't even specify the probability, so it's clearly not worth doing anything stupid. However, Amachi decides that he is no longer going to back down. He has already gone too far. The main character smiles. He thinks he has nothing to lose anyway, and he presses the button with 10 spins. The machine plays cheerful music, and 10 balls roll out. The main character looks at his winnings in bewilderment. He kneels down and examines the balls. Noticing that there are more blue ones, the main character decides to start with those. From the first ball, Amachi gains 3 points of strength. The main character is shocked to realize that he has received an item that permanently increases his stats. Such items can usually be obtained by defeating monsters or opening treasure chests. These items are often found at auctions. Of course, not a single treasure has ever been found in a place called the Hole of Misfortune. And the only rare monsters in this dungeon are colorful slimes. The main character has never heard of such items being found in this place. Amachi decides to continue opening the balls. He gets 3 more strength increases by 3 points, speed increases by 3, agility increases by 5, dexterity increases by 5, and magic increases by 5. The main character notes that there are not only 3-point increases, but also 5-point increases. He realizes that even here there are both winning and losing options. The main character assumes that increase by 5 points should sell at high price. He wonders if it is that rare. Amachi notices that there are only 3 balls left. These are most likely the ones that give characteristic points. Guessing what he will get, the main character opens the ball. The bright glow makes the main character gasp. He receives skill spheres. The main character did not expect that it was possible to get this from Gacha. Now, he has a first level rating, a first level body enhancement, and a 10-point increase in strength. Amachi bursts into happy laughter. He decides to try using his prizes. The main character opens status. His level has indeed dropped by 10 points, but the main character was prepared for this. The luck value, which was raised by attribute points, has not decreased. This surprises Amachi, but he doesn't mind this outcome at all. A confirmation prompt appears, and the main character chooses use all items received from. Seeing the points increase right before his eyes, the main character realizes that he cannot do without a deposit top-up. The main character does not understand why he got it. However, he is not going to miss the opportunity, since he has been given it. Amachi chooses 20 spins at once. He presses the buttons decisively. He can't wait to find out what will come up this time. Familiar music plays, and balls fall onto the floor. 16 of them are blue and 4 are red, meaning they have points. Unable to wait any longer, the main character opens the balls. To his disappointment and indignation, he gets the same skills as last time: suppression of evaluation and strengthening of the body. However, after looking at his status, Amachi discovers that the same abilities add up and the levels increase. Amachi discovers that the same abilities are added together and their levels are increased. The main character often saw information about high-ranking adventurers leaked online. Such articles also talked about skills. Although the main character's main ability is Gacha level. Although he is only at the first level, he has no doubt that this will make him the strongest in the world. Amachi raises his hand toward the light, as if basking in the rays of glory. So far, everything is going great, thanks to his favorite level Gacha. Then the main character notices a sign informing him that there are only 70 balls left in the box. He wonders what will happen when the machine is empty. Will the contents be replenished? The main character reaches for the button to select 10 spins, but a message says that this action is not possible at the first level. Amachi is dissatisfied and realizes with horror that this means one thing. He will have to grind again. All the slimes he has killed over 3 long years flash before his eyes. After a moment of silence, the main character resolutely casts aside his pessimistic mood. He believes that it is a sin to complain about the chance that has fallen to him. The main character bends down and picks up his sword. He knows that he will only feel worse if he regrets the grind. All his thoughts are focused on the slimes. Just then, one of the monsters catches Amachi's attention. Looking at it, the main character decides that he will be able to kill another 100 before nightfall. Soon, the main character has several bags filled to the brim with magic stones. He notices that collecting so many was easier than he thought. Although the main character has killed far less than 1,000 or even 300 monsters. However, Amachi is now back at level 1. He clears slimes at the same speed as before. He even does it faster. The main character believes that this is due to the body strengthening of his second level. But there are also disadvantages. The main character is not yet used to such changes, which is why he constantly crashes into walls. After checking the status window, Amachi is pleased to discover that he has already reached the 8th level. He has again invested all the attribute points he received for the upgrade in luck. The main character decides that once he reaches the 11th level, he will spin the gacha again, and then continue to level up and spend points on luck. Interestingly, this time, while the main character was destroying 300 slimes, he got 2 blue ones and 1 green one. The main character thinks that a few more attempts like this and an encounter with a rainbow monster will be quite likely. Amachi realizes it's time to go home. Then he remembers the report to the Dungeon Association. Loading the bags into his backpack, the main character wonders whether to keep quiet about everything that happened. Of course, his level could give him away, but everyone knows the main character anyway, so they shouldn't pick on him. However, it would be bad if everything suddenly disappeared. Amachi prays for luck, hoping it won't let him down, and heads to branch number 777. There, a girl greets him cheerfully, recognizing him immediately. The main character, in turn, greets Aki. She is the administrator of the 777 branch of the Dungeon Guild. The girl single-handedly performs not only her direct duties, but also the work of a secretary. Aki grunts and stares intently at Amachi. He asks anxiously what's wrong. He is worried that the girl has noticed the changes. Smiling, Aki asks if the main character is staring at her hair again. Pretending to be embarrassed, she adds that because of the main character, she is now in an awkward position. Surprised, Amachi hesitates, but still plays along with the girl. It's better than if she found out what happened in the dungeon. At first, Aki was not very happy about being sent to work in such a remote place, but over time she got used to it and now rewarded the main character with a wonderful smile. At the same time, she mercilessly teased the main character. Even now, laughing, the girl admitted that she was just joking. If anyone has changed, it's Aki herself. She used to always wear her hair down. Then Amachi blurted out that a ponytail would definitely suit her. Since then, Aki has always done so. The main character decided that she simply liked this hairstyle, overlooking the real reason for such a transformation. Suddenly, someone notices that it has become noisy. Apparently, the slime hunters have arrived. The main character and Aki turn around at the sound. It turns out to be Daimon. He asks Amachi if he is still farming slimes. The indignant girl reminds him that the main character is a very valuable employee. Daimon jokingly apologizes, and the main character laughs. Daimon is a guard in Guild 77. When dungeons flooded the world, he fought fearlessly on the front lines. But then Daimon suffered a serious injury, which forced him to switch to security work. This is a necessary measure, because if the dungeon is left unattended, monsters will immediately come out. For this reason, a rule was introduced stating that there must be guards at every entrance. However, the whole of misfortune is a slightly different matter. Only slimes live there, so even if they do come to the surface, it won't be difficult to deal with them. That's why there's only one guard in Dungeon 777, Daimon, and he's on duty a maximum of 4 times a week. Right now, the guy who just arrived says goodbye and rushes out the door, waving his hand. Aki and Amachi still don't understand why he came in at all. The main character believes that Daimon doesn't want to do anything, and this is because in the past 3 years, no one has ever tried to escape from the hole of failure. Aki sighs loudly, propping her head up with her hands. She complains that Daimon is always causing problems. After all, there are only 2 employees in their department. Interrupting her stream of complaints, Amachi hands the girl a bag of magic stones. He asks if it is possible to exchange the crystals now. She agrees and asks how many he has managed to collect today. The main character notes that he has about 500 and the bags are still full. Aki slowly repeats the number and adds that the main character never ceases to amaze her with the number of monsters he has defeated and the magic stones he has collected. The girl says that she herself would only be able to defeat weak monsters, and even then, only a few. Amachi wonders if he could collect even more in another dungeon. Aki enthusiastically encourages him, confident that the main character will succeed. The main character thinks about it. Previously, he was obsessed with finding some secret about slimes and paid little attention to the girl's suggestions, even though she mentioned something about her sister. However, now everything is different. Amachi smiles and decides that he has already become an expert on slimes. He agrees to go to another dungeon, much to Aki's surprise. The main character thinks to himself that his goal now is to get as much as possible from Gacha. To do this, it would be better to max out his luck. Aki asks in amazement, and upon hearing confirmation, she adds that although she made the offer, she did not expect the main character to agree. She wonders what has changed. Amachi thinks to himself that swinging on slimes alone is extremely disadvantageous. After thinking for a moment, the main character finally comes up with an answer. The girl is extremely pleased, which she tells Amachi. Meanwhile, she has finished counting the crystals. 322 tiny magic stones, each worth 200 yen. After deducting 20% tax, the total is 51,520 yen. The main character thanks Aki. She blushes and tugs at her hair, replying that she is the one who is grateful to him. The main character is shocked and silent. The girl suggests that they communicate via a mobile app in the future, and Amachi agrees. Aki is very happy about this and plans to brag to her sister. Amachi asks her not to spam him with messages. Aki replies that she has no intention of doing so. Waving goodbye to Aki, Amachi leaves dungeon 777. The main character still wants to check if the rainbow slime has appeared, but if he doesn't get lucky, it will take years. Now the main character is ready to go to other dungeons he hasn't been to before. He decides how to explore them. Amachi clutches a piece of paper for Kuto Maki, a receptionist at branch 525. The main character rushes towards the new dungeon. The next day, Amachi follows the instructions that Aki has carefully written in her messages. He arrives at branch 525, a dungeon for beginners. The main character notices that the building is indeed huge. The unhappy hole was just a cave at the foot of a mountain that once became a dungeon. But the entrance to the 525 dungeon appeared right in the middle of the road. This branch even has a shop for adventurers, which was not available in branch 777. The main character even came here several times for this. Amachi had no idea at the time that he would be able to reach this dungeon. The main character remembers the letter of recommendation from Aki and takes it out. The main character decides to thank the girl for this. He is indebted to her. Amachi wonders if he should just give the paper to the administrator. Suddenly, he freezes. With the adventurer's consent, information about them is shared between departments. This includes their face, age, name, and of course level. The main character recalls that the last time he updated his information was immediately after reaching level 31, but now he is at level 8. The main character decides that it is better to ask for this information to be kept private so as not to attract unnecessary attention to himself. He thinks that Aki won't refuse to help him with this. Then someone timidly calls out to him. Amachi turns around. He sees a girl who asks if he is Shuda-san. The main character replies that this is indeed the case and adds that he is from branch 777. The girl is happy that they have finally met. She says that she knew Aki would give the main character a letter. While they're talking, other adventurers whisper behind their backs. Someone has heard about branch 777 and remembered the slime hunter. His interlocutor replies that he once saw the main character's gloomy face and adds that, according to rumors, the main character is an eternal loser, only capable of killing slimes. Another adventurer remarks that such a weakling can only fight slimes, and that the main character probably runs away at the slightest sign of danger. Amachi tenses up as he hears the discussion. He thinks that this was more or less the case when he last updated his information, but now it's not. The employee also hears the gossip and gently calls out to the main character, pulling him out of his unpleasant thoughts. The girl takes the astonished main character by the hand and leads him to the back room. He only has time to apologize for his sudden visit. Soon, Amachi is sitting on the sofa. He notes to himself how luxurious the surroundings are in this branch, unlike his native 777, which is falling apart. The girl apologizes for all the gossip. She adds that she has heard about the main character from her sister and now does not even know how to make amends. The main character hastily replies that it is his own fault for revealing information about himself. Suddenly, he stops mid-sentence, asks about his sister, and clarifies the employee's name. The girl says she completely forgot to introduce herself. She says her name is Maki, Aki's younger sister. The girl adds that she is happy to meet Amachi. He compares the information with Aki's letter. Maki asks him to call her by her first name. The main character is shocked to note that the sisters have completely different personalities. Aki, meanwhile, wonders how Amachi is doing. Daimon hopes that no one is bullying or harassing the main character. After meeting, Maki tells the main character information about Dungeon 525. First, Amachi received a map of the first, second, and third floors. Then the girl informs him that goblins and killer rabbits live in this place. Maki also explains how to behave when meeting other adventurers. She says that it is strictly forbidden to finish off monsters that others are fighting and asks the main character to be on his guard. Amachi notes to himself that the girl is just as caring as Aki. He even misses branch 777 a little. Then Maki glances at her watch and sighs. The girl says she would like to chat some more, but she has a meeting at 10. The main character asks her not to worry about him and adds that he is going to head straight to the dungeon. Laughing, Maki wishes him luck and admits that she is rooting for him. Embarrassed, the main character says goodbye. He finds a girl charming and notes that she smells nice. Then Amachi sees a store sign. He decides to go in and buy some equipment. Now the main character is the happy owner of a long iron sword, light iron armor, iron gloves, and greaves. He paid 150,000 yen for everything. The main character is extremely pleased. He is glad that he was able to upgrade all of his equipment. Before that, Amachi had been using the same set for a whole year. Still, one should not underestimate the income that slimes bring. Amachi approaches the cabinet with elixirs, deciding to take a recovery potion just in case. Then he hears someone behind him ask if it's worth looking at the main character. Amachi freezes. The gossip monger is sarcastically amazed that Amachi still has iron equipment at level 30. His interlocutor suggests that this is all the slime hunter is capable of. Someone asks him not to laugh. The main character remains silent. Another adventurer notes that slimes only drop a tiny magic stone, which means that in this situation, you can't earn more than 1,000 yen a day. Frowning, the main character hurriedly walks through the crowd. Someone asks him to stop mocking them again, but the adventurer points out that they are just telling it like it is. The crowd laughs. Amachi thinks the adventurers are right. He used to earn about 1,000 yen a day. However, those days are gone. Since the main character upgraded his luck, the chance of finding tiny magic stones has increased, and his income has doubled or even tripled. Now, the main character's earnings are dozens of times higher than before. Amachi is now able to help his family, and his savings are growing. The main character is confident that he will gain even more from defeating new monsters. The main character does not want to attract the attention of any suspicious individuals, so he decides to limit himself to iron equipment. Amachi turns to an employee and asks her to register him to enter the dungeon. She smiles and gets to work. She wishes him a safe journey. The main character hesitates and thanks the girl. Descending into dungeon 525, the main character notes how crowded it is. However, this is not surprising. This place is popular with adventurers. Amachi passes by the crowd, involuntarily remembering how he used to always hunt alone. He can't help comparing this branch to his native 777. The main character studies the map he received from Maki. Based on this information, he already had a rough idea of what the dungeon looked like. The first floor resembles a maze, like a huge anthill. The staircase leading to the second floor is located right at the end of the corridor leading from the entrance. However, the main character notes that for some reason everyone is walking along the same path. He doesn't want to check it out for himself. Therefore, Amachi decides that the best option would be to get to the edge of the map, where there are fewer people. The main character follows the chosen path and soon realizes that he was right. There are indeed no other adventurers in sight. The main character thinks that this is just more peaceful. Suddenly, Amachi hears a strange sound. He cries out. The main character hides behind a rock. Now he notices a goblin, which was the source of the strange sound. Although Amachi has not seen these monsters for 3 years, they have not changed at all. However, something is different now. The main character is no longer afraid of goblins. He peeks out from behind his hiding place, preparing to start hunting and wondering if all monsters of this species are so stupid. First, the main character uses his assessment skill. He sees information about the enemy. It is level 3 and has an iron knife. Amachi was expecting something more, but this situation suits him. Then the goblin turns around suspiciously. The main character realizes that he has been spotted. The monster lunges forward to attack. The main character is unsure how to fight it properly. He takes his sword out of its sheath and strikes the enemy. To his surprise, this is enough to kill the goblin. Amachi is quite puzzled. Monsters of this type cut as easily as slime. He thinks that goblins are somehow weak. Nervously laughing, the main character wonders why he bothered at all. After the goblin's death, an iron knife and a tiny magic stone remain on the ground. The main character picks up the loot and puts it in his bag. Now he is sure that he will be able to deal with goblins without any problems. Then Amachi remembers that he wanted to try something. After making sure that no one is around, the main character presses his palm against the wall and uses assessment. He assumes that this will allow him to see all the information about the dungeon. To his disappointment, the main character only sees the name of the place. Apparently, that's all the information available to him at the moment. Amachi believes that if he levels up, he will be able to see more. Sighing, he remembers something. He wonders if someone special will appear if he kills 100 monsters. The main character happens to spot a goblin. The second enemy falls as easily as the first, leaving behind an iron knife. Soon, a dozen monsters have been killed. Then Amachi finds the 35th and kills it. At this rate, Amachi quickly exterminates 100. Sighing wearily, he examines the items that have fallen out. The main character seems to have killed exactly 100 goblins, but nothing has happened. He wonders if this method has failed. 100 goblins have been killed, his level has risen to 11, and his luck has increased to 80. However, no rare monster has appeared. The main character already thinks that this method only works with slimes. But then he has a sudden realization. He is led to it by another killer rabbit. As we know, not only goblins live on the first floor, but also these monsters called killer rabbits. One of the killer rabbits attacked the main character after the 34th monster was killed and rammed into him. Amachi was already saying goodbye to his life, but managed to finish off his attacker in battle. After that, he decided to avoid the eared monsters. Because of the killer rabbits, he was unable to kill 100 goblins in a row. Amachi thinks that the method might work if he kills 100 monsters of the same type in a row. It turns out that the presence of different monsters is not a plus, but a minus. The main character decides to kill the remaining 34 goblins. His level has increased after all. Here he sighs, remembering the gacha. The main character can perform a spin that he completely forgot about while escaping from the killer rabbit. Amachi hurriedly looks around, checking to see if anyone is nearby. Convinced that the chosen spot is empty and safe, he activates the gacha level. A familiar machine appears in front of the main character. The main character reaches for the button with 10 spins and presses it decisively. Amachi hopes that the gacha sound can be turned down somehow, although he's not going to spin it in front of other people anyway. The balls roll out of the machine. The main character counts them and finds that he has received 8 blue and 2 red ones. He thinks this is not bad at all, considering that only one SR item is guaranteed per 10 spins. The main character is curious to see what will come out next. He opens the first ball and gets the automatic mapping skill and also improves his assessment. Amachi is pleased with his catch and finds the new ability extremely useful. The newly acquired skill is activated by a voice command. It transfers all the places the main character has already visited to the map. In addition, monsters are marked with red dots on the map, people with white dots, and Amachi himself with a star. Finally, the main character manages to kill the last, 100th goblin. Thanks to the map, the main character managed to avoid encountering the killer rabbit and achieve his goal. Of course, all monsters are marked the same way, but they can be distinguished by the way they move. There's a loud noise behind Amachi, and he quickly turns around. The main character notices thick smoke and wonders where it came from. It goes deeper and deeper, and the main character rushes after it. The smoke leads Amachi to a place. He recognizes it immediately. This is where he spun the gacha. Now the entire space is filled with green mist. Because of this, the main character can't see anything. Then a large clawed paw emerges from the cloud of smoke. Amachi barely manages to dodge the blow, which leaves a dent in the dungeon wall. The attacker roars loudly. The main character can't believe what is happening. It seems like madness to him, but then a pair of eyes flash in the smoke. Then a goblin emerges from the cloud, much larger than its fellow creatures. Amachi uses his assessment skill on it. The assessment ability has just risen to the 2nd level. Now Amachi is able to see the enemy's skills. When he tried the improved assessment on a normal goblin, the monster had no skills. But this time, the main character laughs heartily. He finally manages to find a rare monster after hundreds of consecutive kills. With the help of assessment, Amachi can see the following information. His opponent is a 10th level hobgoblin. The monster carries a massive steel sword. The hobgoblin's skill is monstrous strength. The monster didn't waste any time. That same massive sword came down hard on the spot where the main character had been standing just a second ago, barely dodging it. The main character nervously hiccups. Amachi understands perfectly well that if the hobgoblin hits him even once, there will be no need for a second blow. Amachi will simply die. The monster swings its deadly weapon again, bursting into wild laughter and flashing his eyes. He almost cuts the main character in two. The main character miraculously manages to jump out of the way. It was not in vain that he had leveled up his agility before the battle. Of course, the hobgoblin's strength is truly monstrous, especially when enhanced by skill. However, the monster moves slowly and in a straight line. It takes time for it to raise its huge sword and swing it. Due to its low speed, a gap of about 2 seconds is formed. The only way to defeat the hobgoblin is to attack it during this interval. Having decided this, Amachi resolutely takes up a fighting stance. A successful swing of the sword, and the hobgoblin cries out hoarsely in pain. The main character looks closely and realizes with disappointment that the cut is not deep at all. Although the main character has pumped up his strength quite well, the monster's defense is still higher. However, this does not mean that Amachi's attacks are useless. Although it will be difficult for him, he is not going to give up and run away. After all, the main character summoned the hobgoblin himself, which means he is responsible. He simply must defeat the monster, otherwise someone could die. This cannot be allowed to happen. Fired up by his thoughts, the main character strikes again. This time, he manages to cut off several growths from the hobgoblin's head. The hobgoblin growls, saliva dripping from its mouth. Amachi freezes in shock. He doesn't understand how he managed to achieve such an effect with his attack. Then Amachi remembers that, according to rumors, monsters have vulnerable spots. Most likely, the main character has managed to hit just such a weak spot. Amachi realizes that a couple more hits like that, and he will defeat the hobgoblin. The next attack leaves a deep cut in the monster's eye. It breathes hoarsely, grabbing the sword. The main character finds himself face to face with the hobgoblin and slits its throat. The blow is perfect. Looking back, Amachi sees the monster fall onto its back, blood gushing from its neck. Its clawed paw freezes lifelessly. The hobgoblin's eyes close. Amazed, Amachi, still holding the sword tightly just in case, realizes that he has done it. The monster is dead. Just as the main character approaches the body, it is hidden by a haze. The carcass disappears. The main character's level rises from 11 to 17. Amachi breathes a sigh of relief and sinks wearily to the floor. He is extremely exhausted. The main character notes that he has raised his level incredibly quickly, setting a new record. As usual, he invests all the points he has earned in luck. Here, the main character notices that the smoke has not dissipated. Amachi anxiously thinks that this may not be the end. If a new rare monster suddenly appears, he will have a very difficult time. Right before Amachi's eyes, the haze slowly diminishes until it disappears completely. Amachi exhales loudly and leans back. He has already had a good scare. If another monster appeared now, the main character would most likely die. The main character wonders if this was the last monster, and if no new rare creatures will appear. He examines the items left behind after the hobgoblin's death. A massive steel sword, a magic stone, and a monstrous strength skill sphere. Then Amachi has a new thought. What if the second monster didn't appear precisely because of his high luck? Deep in thought, Amachi runs into a wall. He scolds himself for getting carried away with his investigation and neglecting his surroundings. This is a very bad habit. Next time, when the main character becomes stronger, he will work on it. In the meantime, Amachi is going to diversify the list of goblins killed by the killer rabbit. He also needs to change a couple of things. For now, the main character should stop spending all his points on luck because he needs to be prepared for a sudden rare monster. Of course, he got some good loot, but it's worth slowing down for now. Moreover, it's time to spin the gacha. Amachi chooses 10 spins. The machine clatters cheerfully. The main character looks at the purple ball in amazement. He has never seen one like it before. Probably, this one is even higher than red. Now that the main character has reached level 17, his luck value has reached 112 points. After reaching 100, Amachi started getting rare items, which can only be explained by good luck. Delighted, Amachi decides not to waste any time and immediately opens the purple ball. His intelligence and mana increase, and his assessment interference skill fluctuates. In addition, the main character receives first-level fire magic. Amachi freezes with shining eyes. A familiar notification pops up in front of him, asking if he wants to use all the items. Amachi, of course, agrees. He looks at his status window. Among his skills, there are both useful and useless ones. The main character is so happy to have received magic that he forgets about everything else. But now he is once again troubled by his monstrous power. Of course, it gives a huge bonus to strength, but the main character is not sure if it can be used on humans. The hobgoblin possessed this skill. Amachi is afraid that he will become a mountain of muscles if he activates it. He slaps himself on the forehead, deciding that this is too much. and he leaves monstrous strength behind. Amachi notices that he now has many skills. He is going to read about all the incomprehensible abilities on the internet. Turning on his phone, the main character discovers the Dungeon 525 forum. The main character sees this as promising and assumes that he can find information about skills here. He comes across a thread where adventurers discuss girls and whom married whom. According to Amachi, having a harem in the team is a very good thing. After reading more posts swearing love for Maki and discussing how she will one day cause a war, Amachi realizes that Aki's sister is very popular. Then the main character comes across something interesting and useful. It turns out that if you simply steal items or weapons from a monster, they will disappear when the monster dies. It turns out that loot can only be collected when it drops. This means that the sword left behind by the hobgoblin will not disappear. The main character takes the weapon with him. It doesn't fit in his backpack, so Amachi has to carry it in his hands. At the branch, he is met by an extremely excited Maki. She runs up to Amachi and asks anxiously if he is okay. He greets her, he replies that he has returned. Amachi notices that the room is somehow too noisy and asks what is going on. Maki, looking gloomy, she informs him that a rare monster, a hobgoblin, has appeared on the first floor of the dungeon. Everyone is worried about this. Smiling, the girl is happy that the main character has returned safe and sound. Then she notices the sword. She asks in amazement what kind of weapon it is. Laughing awkwardly, the main character explains that it is not his item. It belongs to the hobgoblin. The girl nervously asks again. Opening his bag, Amachi adds that he also has a medium magic stone and a skill sphere. He shows Maki all his treasures, saying that he brought them as proof. The girl excitedly asks him to wait, and not to show the items here. She demands that he put them away quickly, adding that it is dangerous. Amachi is surprised by this reaction, but then he notices an armed crowd of guards behind the employee, and whispering adventurers. Maki turns to everyone gathered and hurriedly leads the main character into the meeting room. He disagrees, stammering. Closing the door tightly behind them and hanging up a busy sign, the girl demands that he listen to her carefully. She asks if Amachi understands how expensive skill spheres are. Maki explains that you can't just wave them around in front of everyone. The main character apologizes guiltily. He folds his hands awkwardly. The girl continues. She says she understands that Amachi was in a hurry to tell everyone about the monster's death and that the threat was over. This desire is commendable, and Maki is grateful for it. Bringing her face close to the main character's ear, the girl remarks that there are already all sorts of rumors circulating about him. He would be better off taking care of himself. Maki adds that she heard from her sister how hardworking and skilled the main character is, but the others don't know that. Amachi freezes in excitement. He didn't know that Aki thought so highly of him. Maki says that even if Amachi really did defeat the hobgoblin himself, bad people might consider him easy prey. She asks the main character to be more careful from now on. He agrees immediately. The girl notes with satisfaction that this is the right answer. Embarrassed, she adds that she was acting like a strict teacher just now. Amachi says that she was calling Maki sensei, which embarrasses her even more. He wonders why the girl cares so much about him. The main character thinks it's because she is Aki's sister. But then he decides that there must be something else going on. He glances furtively at Maki, and he assumes that the reason is not because of their relationship after all. Putting the cups of tea on the table, the girl announces that it's time to discuss the next question. She asks if it's true that Amachi killed the hobgoblin. And is he sure about it? He replies that it is true. Maki acknowledges that the sword, the size of the magic stone, and the skill sphere correspond to the reward for a monster of this type. However, the girl hesitates and says she is not sure that Amachi is capable of killing a hobgoblin, given his characteristics. The main character thought so too. Exterminating goblins is one thing, but defeating a hobgoblin sounds completely implausible. Amachi is almost certain that the adventurers from the guild will consider him to have appropriated someone else's reward. The main character is sure that it's all down to luck. That's the only reason he defeated the monster. In addition to his already high stats, he also gained the body strengthening skill. This made the main character stronger and faster, so the hobgoblin could hardly hit him. Without all these factors, Amachi would not have been able to defeat the monster. Clenching his fingers into a fist, Amachi said emphatically that he understood what Maki was getting at, but he himself had defeated the hobgoblin. Amachi passionately declared that he understood what Maki was getting at, but he had defeated the hobgoblin himself. He asks the girl to believe him. She widens her eyes and remains silent for a few moments. But then she agreed. She added that she had one more question. Maki asks directly what the main character's luck stat is now. She explains that she heard from her sister that Amachi always stubbornly invests all his points in this particular characteristic. The girl warns that this information will not be entered into the database, and if Amachi does not want to, he does not have to answer. The main character knows that asking to reveal hidden statistics is taboo, because it is a matter of life and death for an adventurer. He briefly replies aloud that he understands. The main character adds that he trusts Maki and her sister and will tell them the truth as a sign of gratitude for their care for him. The shocked girl listens to him intently. Amachi smiles. He is sure that the girls are trustworthy because they have done so much good for him. Moreover, the main character is undoubtedly lucky. Leaning closer to Maki, Juuyoudatta informs her that his luck is now at 112 points. There is a heated discussion about what happened on the forum. Many heard the hobgoblins roar, and now everyone knows that one of the newbies, unimaginable as it may seem, defeated the monster. The adventurers are desperately jealous of the lucky one who got the monstrous strength skill sphere. Some are just quietly happy that everyone is alive and well. One of the participants recalls that today, the legendary slime hunter showed up at the branch. This causes a wave of jokes, until someone writes that Maki now works exclusively for this loser, if the rumors are to be believed, of course. Others write that they saw him carrying a skill sphere and a huge sword. However, the forum participants still don't believe that the slime hunter managed to defeat the hobgoblin. A happy Aki enters her home and informs her sister. Her sister greets her, sitting on the couch and reading a book. Aki offers Maki a drink and tells her to rest. She opens a can of beer. She takes a sip with relish, noting that this is the best thing to do after work. Her younger sister points out that the girl should have a day off today. She sighs and explains that she was hoping Amachi would visit, but he never showed up. Even the guard daimon didn't come. As a result, Aki passed the time reading manga and sleeping. She even went to the dungeon for fun. Maki asks in horror if the girl left the reception desk. She puts her head in her hands and replies that everything is fine. No one except the main character ever visits branch 777 anyway. She sadly adds that no one else ever goes there. Maki agrees with her. Aki, gloomily opening a new can of beer, adds that she is highly valued at the main office, so they will turn a blind eye to such a transgression. She cheerfully says that only in their basement are there no employees at work at night. Maki sternly stops her and takes the beer can away. The girl stammers that she wants to discuss something about Amachi. Aki immediately interrupts her, admiring the amount of magic stones that Juuyoudatta always brings. She adds that it is only thanks to him that the monthly quota for crystal purchases is met. Her younger sister wonders why Aki is so proud of this. Thoughtfully propping her head up with her hand, she explains that on her last slime hunt, she realized that the chance of getting magic stones from them is really tiny. Of course, sometimes you can get lucky, but it's as if the main character knows some kind of secret. Maki just remains silent. Aki raises her hand with a can of beer and beams, saying that thanks to the main character, her life is now peaceful and secure. Jumping up from her seat and grabbing Maki by the shoulders, the girl explains that since she gave Amachi a recommendation before he left, the sisters get a share of the main character's reward. Her interlocutor says that's cool. Aki leans closer to her sister's face, and in a conspiratorial whisper, she asks how she likes Amachi. She cringes under her older sister's dreamy gaze. Finally, Maki replies that Amachi seemed like a good guy to her, albeit a little naive, but with good ideals. She sternly adds that she has discovered that Aki has not explained many things to the main character. She gasps and suggests discussing it later. For now, it's better to let Maki tell how Amachi distinguished himself. She glances at Aki with dissatisfaction. Her younger sister replies that, as incredible as it may sound, according to him, the main character killed about 150 first-level goblins in one day, and knocked out a whopping 132 small stones. Her interlocutor is delighted, but then she thinks about it. She notes that for a novice adventurer, 10 to 20 monsters a day is the norm. Maki replies that this is true and adds that the main character also dropped about 30 iron swords, but he threw them away because they were too heavy. Aki is horrified by this news. Although the guild needs magic stones more, knives are more expensive per piece. The difference is obvious. In the first case, 200 yen, and in the second, 1,500 yen. The girl notes that Amachi probably didn't know about this. Maki confirms her guess, saying that Amachi was shocked to hear about it during the report. She adds that it is now obvious that Aki was shirking her duties while working with the main character. The younger girl passionately declares that from now on, she will thoroughly explain everything to the main character as his mentor. The older sister snorts. She remarks that if Maki is going to be the main character's personal advisor, then she can offer herself as his assistant. Blushing, her interlocutor hastily replies that she is only doing so because the letter of recommendation contained a request to help Amachi. Noticing the smirk on her sister's face, Maki throws a pillow at her. She adds that a double contract is a constant headache. Aki just grunts. The younger sister suggests getting back to business. She notes that, considering how much Amachi carries, he should hire a porter. However, there is no suitable candidate, and the main character himself is not eager to take anyone with him. Opening a bag of treats, Aki remarks that Amachi has his own problems. A regular assistant would only get in his way. Maki takes out a folder and hands it to her sister. She warns the girl to wipe her hands before reading. She mustn't smudge the secret report on the S-Class mission. The older sister asks with her mouth full what this is all about. Maki explains that the report contains all of Amachi's exploits for the day and information that the main character has allowed only Aki to share. She adds that Aki would simply not believe the story at face value. Beaming, the older sister delves into studying the documents. Her mouth opens in surprise. Aki announces that she has sobered up from what she has read. It turns out that Amachi has only been fighting slimes. He took and finished off the troublesome first-level hobgoblin. Maki crossed her arms sternly across her chest. He draws his sister's attention to the table listing the items obtained by Amachi and informs them that everything has already been confirmed. Aki remarks that one can only admire this. Her companion announces that the main character is going to sell the reward through the guild auction. The older sister asks in amazement. Of course, a two-handed sword is not suitable for Amachi, but monstrous strength is the best skill for close combat. Aki concludes that this will cause a real stir at the auction. Aki doesn't understand why he doesn't take advantage of this himself. Or does he have another one? Maki replies that that's not the point at all. Her older sister waits, in surprise for her, to continue. Her interlocutor explains that Amachi feels he owes Aki a lot, including the recommendation, and wants to repay her in this way. Maki explains to the main character how the deduction on the grade works and that it will be enough to simply cash in the items. However, she fails to change the main character's mind. He is determined to sell the monstrous power as well. Aki is truly stunned. Of the 20% tax, 75% goes to the guild, and the rest is added to the registrar's salary. If the adventurer has a recommendation, 50% of the tax goes to the guild, 25% to the person who wrote the letter of recommendation, and 25% to the current registrar. The same applies to the auction held by the guild. Aki notes that the main character is too kind. She is flattered, but this is too much. Monstrous strength is a rare skill, and at auction, it will fetch tens of millions. Each of the sisters will receive 5% of the proceeds. Aki has no idea what to say to the main character in response to such generosity. Maki notes that she tried to talk Amachi out of it, but he insisted. So she decided to repay him with kindness and continue to help him in every way she can. Aki adds that she will join them too. She adds that the first thing to do is to take care of the safety of the items, and also to collect data on the main character's luck. The girl recalls an experiment that showed that depending on the level of luck, critical hits occur more often. She decides that they need to find articles and tell Amachi about it as soon as possible. Maki agrees. The next morning, Amachi arrives at the branch, looking around for Maki. The girl is usually already at her workplace at this time. Here, the main character is surprised to see a whole crowd of adventurers. They loudly boast about their successes. One reports that he managed to kill 50 monsters single-handedly on the 3rd level. Another rudely shuts him up, claiming that he knocked out as many as 15 small magic stones. The rest of the crowd joins in, boasting about their achievements. Amachi is impressed by them. Amachi thinks with a smile that they are simply super. During yesterday's conversation, Maki explained in detail to the main character how the recommendation works. Aki didn't say anything like that to the main character. As it turns out, the recommendation letter concerns both the administrator and the adventurer who received it. It contains mutually beneficial conditions. One of these is assigning a secretary. Usually, the administrator simply estimates the cost of goods, but here they will also advise on what to pay attention to based on the adventurer's abilities. In addition, the registrar, having become exclusive, monitors the seeker's health and morale. She also advises on equipment. In some cases, she even teaches combat skills or gives massages. An exclusive adventurer is a priority for a registrar. Getting one is a real dream. That is why a whole queue of womanizers, praising themselves left and right, lines up in front of beautiful registrars who have not yet issued letters of recommendation. Right now, something similar is happening at branch 525. The crowd rudely pushes Amachi away. He watches the scene with wide eyes. Such a situation is simply unimaginable in 777. Amachi continues to ponder exclusivity. Of course, it's nice when a beautiful girl always greets you with a smile at. The main character understands perfectly well the desire to receive this kind of support. He is also a guy and would like that. However, Aki supported him in a slightly different way. For example, when greeting Amachi, she wished him to bring another mountain of magic stones to the branch. True, the girl also accompanied her request with a smile. If you look closely, Aki is also a real beauty. But the main character is sure that the girl would just laugh at him if he asked her to sign a contract with him. Besides, Amachi was practically the only adventurer in Branch 777, so Aki worked exclusively with him anyway. Then a certain idea comes to the main character's mind. He immediately begins to push his way through the crowd amid the discontented shouts of those gathered. The main character finally spots Maki. He waves to her, wishing her good morning. The girl greets him in return, ignoring the shouts from the crowd, and invites Amachi to go to the back room for negotiations. They enter the office. A dark-haired girl watches them. She breaks into a satisfied smile. Bowing her head, Maki thanks Amachi. He hastily interrupts the girl and asks her to look up. The main character adds that the employee helped him so much yesterday that he is still grateful to her. In addition, Maki not only conducted the appraisal, but also organized an auction. Amachi says that the girl is his representative or even his personal agent, and he is always ready to come to her rescue. Maki blushes and looks embarrassed and confused. The main character admits that he will surely cause her a lot of trouble, but still hopes for her help. Waving her hands, Maki replies that there can be no question of any problems. If anything, she herself received a huge favor on her first day, and she still feels awkward about it. Amachi asks her not to worry about it. From behind the door, he hears Maki's admirers arguing and confessing their love to the receptionist. The main character asks if this happens often. The girl thoughtfully replies that always happens on weekday mornings. But on weekends and holidays, it's quiet and peaceful. Since students come to the branch, it's usually impossible to get through at the beginning of the day. Smiling, the main character says he understands. To himself, he thinks that it would be nice to sign an exclusive contract with Maki. Yesterday, she kindly gave him advice and tips, and besides, she is the only one who knows about the main character's abnormal luck. If the girl agrees to become his agent, his opportunities in this branch will increase significantly. To his surprise, Amachi directly offers to sign a contract. The girl blushes and asks again. Now the main character himself is embarrassed. He just wanted to joke around and didn't expect the girl to really get excited about the idea. Maki pulls herself together and apologizes for her emotional reaction. The main character has a lot of questions, but he wants to start with the most important one. Is it even possible to sign a contract with the girl? After all, he has a recommendation from Aki, which means that Amachi is already taken. Maki replies that it is possible, but there are many conditions. If the adventurer already has a manager, he can't work with other assistants, but he can choose his own consultant. Otherwise, the most successful adventurers would have a whole team, and everyone else would have a hard time. Amachi recalls hearing that in Japan, high-level adventurers have their own personal agents, like partners, but as a rule, they don't have more than one. Maki timidly asks if Amachi really thinks she is right for him. After all, they've only known each other for one day. The main character honestly replies that he himself did not expect such a reaction and simply said it without thinking. However, today the girl behind the counter looked so confused, and the main character plans to continue working with this branch. He would like Maki to continue helping him, but not as a temporary replacement, but as a real personal manager. Bowing his head in embarrassment, Amachi ends his speech by repeating his offer to sign a contract, if the girl doesn't mind, of course. Amachi is sure that he will mainly work in this dungeon from now on. Maki is such a good employee that even Aki mentioned her in her letter of recommendation. Amachi still had doubts, but after talking to the girl personally, they disappeared. He really wants Maki to become his exclusive partner. The main character sits with an embarrassed smile on his face, while the girl covers her mouth with her hand. She blushes. Maki modestly says that she understands the main characters. She admits that she had previously considered signing a contract with someone, and she thinks Amachi is perfect for the role. Hearing this, Amachi raises his hand and shouts the girl's name, beaming with joy. He immediately feels embarrassed by his exuberant joy, deciding that he has said something terribly stupid out of excitement. But to his surprise, the main character notices that Maki is also nervous. Turning away from the main character, the girl announces that the first condition has been fulfilled. She apologizes, takes out her phone, and dials someone's number. The phone rings, and Maki introduces herself. Aki can be heard asking why his sister is calling in the middle of the workday. She never does that. However, the girl immediately laughs cheerfully, saying that she doesn't do anything all day anyway. Amachi realizes that Aki communicates with everyone in the same manner. Maki says she has something serious to discuss and adds that the main character is sitting with her in the conference room. Her older sister instantly perks up and asks what the charming Amachi wants from her sister. He hastily warns that he can hear everything, and Maki reminds him that she is calling about something important. Apologizing hastily, Aki asks what the reason for the call is. Her younger sister explains that the main character wants to sign an exclusive contract with her. Aki asks several times, then remarks that 2 agents are incredibly rare. She adds that since Maki is calling her, it means she has already agreed. Aki herself has no objections. After all, it is her sister. She cheerfully says that Amachi turned out to be very quick-witted, which made her feel a little sad. He is embarrassed, hearing everything Aki says. However, Maki briefly thanks her sister and hangs up, saying that it's time for her to go, without listening to her relative. Turning to Amachi with a smile, the girl announces that permission from the first exclusive agent has been obtained. The sisters will decide for themselves how to divide the responsibilities between themselves. The only thing left is to get approval from the branch manager. The confused protagonist notes to himself that Maki seems to have a strange attitude toward Aki. He wonders if all sisters are like this. These girls clearly have a complicated relationship. Maki asks him to wait a moment and reaches for the internal phone. Then there's a knock at the door. A voice says that it has heard the conversation and asks permission to enter. Maki agrees, and the dark-haired girl enters the room. Amachi stares at her in shock, his mouth agape, realizing that she is most likely the branch manager herself. The main character has a vague impression that he knows her from somewhere. Then he looks at Maki, then back to the woman. It seems to him that he is looking at twins. Amachi asks aloud, embarrassed, if Aki and Maki are sisters. Smiling, the girl intervenes in the conversation and says that the woman is their mother. The main character's jaw drops. He can't believe his ears. The girl's mother looks too young. The woman introduces herself. Her name is Miki, and she is indeed the head of the 525th branch of the Dungeon Guild. The girl's mother adds that Amachi seems to take good care of her daughters, and she wanted to meet him. However, she did not expect to meet him for another reason. Miki wonders if the main character wasn't satisfied with just Aki. Now, he needs Maki as his personal assistant as well. She rounds her eyes. Amachi hangs his head dejectedly. Most branch managers are known to be former adventurers. Miki's strong, fighting aura exudes such palpable pressure. Maki resolutely announces that she herself wants to sign an exclusive contract with Amachi. She adds that his relationship with Aki has nothing to do with it. She just thinks the main character is trustworthy. The main character is surprised by her words. Although he is pleased to hear that the girl trusts him, he does not understand why Maki decided to say this. Miki thoughtfully says that, in that case, it seems that Amachi is serious. He is completely lost, not understanding why the branch manager approves of all this. Miki announces that she has one condition before Maki and Amachi sign the contract. They listen to her excitedly. The woman reminds them that yesterday the main character defeated a rare monster and gained skill, and then he put it up for auction. Amachi confirms that this is how it happened. Miki continues. Although there's only one day left before the auction begins, thanks to the appearance of the monstrous power as a lot, there's been an incredible buzz around it. Since such a valuable skill has entered the market through the association, the rating of the 525 branch has also risen. Smiling, the main character says he understands what Miki is getting at. Laughing, she remarks that he is quick to grasp things. The woman announces that she wants to increase her branch's rating even more, and for that, she needs Amachi to obtain another skill sphere. She gives him 2 weeks to do so. To the protagonist's horror, Miki adds that if he can't even handle such a task, she simply won't be able to trust him with her daughters. Maki indignantly exclaims that this is not normal. The woman stops her indignation, reminding her that at work she is not a mother, but the head of the branch. She adds that she has no intention of changing the conditions. Miki turns to the main character and, pointing her finger at him, promises not to punish Amachi if he fails. She reminds him that because of Aki's recommendation, Maki will help him even if they don't sign a contract. The woman asks if the main character is satisfied with the conditions. He looks thoughtfully ahead. Amachi will be able to obtain the skill sphere, he is sure of that. Summoning a hobgoblin is easier than easy, and yesterday, the main character thoroughly studied all of the monster's techniques. Now he's sure to win. By the time Amachi decides to clash with the hobgoblin again, he will have time to spin the gacha once more. If his stats improve, it will be even easier to win. The problem is that the main character doesn't know what the chance of getting a skill sphere is, because he hasn't had time to check it yet. However, the market is full of all kinds of useful skills, even though the method of summoning rare monsters is not widely known, and there are almost no people with high luck stats. In addition, as a rule, good rewards are used immediately, and the leftovers are sold. And with all this, the surplus is so great that it goes to the market. With Amachi's luck and knowledge of summoning monsters, something is bound to work out. Even if rare items don't drop from every monster killed, the level will still increase, and points can be invested in luck. Moreover, with each gacha spin, the main character will only become stronger, which means he will be able to kill 100 monsters faster. In addition, the chance of a rare reward dropping will also increase. Problems can only arise if a new rare monster appears immediately after the hobgoblin. The main character has only managed to find information about the goblin general, the ogre, and the goblin king. These have been little studied, so their strength is unknown. Purely based on logic, the goblin king should be the most dangerous. Let's say that Dungeon 525 is considered suitable for beginners. That's what people have decided. It is quite possible that there are still some unknown creatures and dangers lurking there. Amachi will have to be extremely careful and not rush into challenging the bosses. Maki has been calling out to the leader for some time, trying to bring him out of his deep contemplation, only when the girl leans in very close. Amachi comes to his senses. He is embarrassed to discover how close Maki's face is to him. The girl timidly tells the main character not to be shy about refusing the test if it is too difficult for him. Maki is pleased by the very thought that Amachi wanted to sign a contract with her. He apologizes and explains that the girl misunderstood his thoughtfulness. The main character asks Mickey if another monstrous power would be acceptable. The branch manager replies that this would ruin the whole intrigue, but in extreme cases, it would be acceptable. Pounding his chest, Amachi loudly agrees to the condition. Maki timidly calls out to him. Mickey is satisfied. She informs him that she has marked all the places in the dungeon where rare monsters can be found for the main character and sent him a list of skills on his phone. The woman advises him to pay attention to the price tags and choose the most expensive spheres. She wishes the main character good luck. And with that, she takes her leave. Stunned, Maki and Juuyoudatta stand silently in front of the closed door. The girl is the first to break the silence and apologizes for how things turned out. The main character hastily stops her. He says that he arranged everything himself. Laughing awkwardly, Maki thanks the main character and asks him not to do anything reckless because she is worried about Amachi. He promises to try. Leaving the office, Amachi feels exhausted. He decides to go to a local cafe. The main character sits down at a table. Soon, a waitress with a polite smile brings the main character his order. Tea with the signature cream from branch 525. He takes a sip. Amachi leans back in his chair with satisfaction. It's as if a weight has been lifted from his shoulders. Maki also treated him to delicious tea. The mere presence of the girl pleases the main character, and her pleasant scent calms him down, making him feel at ease. Enjoying his tea, Amachi's only regret is that he didn't order dessert. He really likes the cafe. The main character reflects on how strange the conversation turned out to be. Initially, the main character just wanted to know what to do with items that don't fit in his bag. After all, killing 100 monsters yields a mountain of loot, which the guy simply has to throw away. Now, his heart will bleed when he has to throw something away. Just think, one iron knife is worth 3 cups of tea at a cafe. Because of such wastefulness, Maki gets angry at Amachi. He decides to be more careful from now on. The main character's thoughts turn to the branch manager. She seems to him to be a mixture of Aki and Maki. The woman's manners are as gentle as those of her youngest daughter. But there is a strange, invisible pressure. And the boss's gaze is just like her older daughter's. There is no doubt that they are mother and child. Mickey behaves just like Aki when she teases Amachi and enjoys it. After weighing up the situation, the main character decides that the branch manager is only 20% Maki, and the rest is her older daughter. The harsh conditions set by Mickey, to find any skill, but preferably not monstrous strength, and to do so within the 2 weeks remaining before the next auction, worry Amachi, and he still hopes that it's just a joke. It seemed like the branch manager was half serious, and there seemed to be a glimmer of hope in her eyes. One thing is clear, Maki genuinely cares about Mickey. Sighing, the main character decides that since he started all this, he has to see it through to the end. Amachi turns on his phone. He sees a notification that the data was received 15 minutes ago. He looks through the information and finds details about the hobgoblin. The possibility of a monster appearing on the 2nd floor is marked with question marks. The main character doesn't quite understand what this means. Either the locations of rare monsters are unconfirmed, or it is simply unknown what items and skills they drop. These are serious gaps in the information. Amachi notes that there is no information at all about the 2nd floor of the dungeon. The main character delves deeper and deeper, and he delves deeper into studying the data. It turns out that he has already encountered a rare subtype of goblin in the dungeon. There is no information at all about the killer rabbit variety. The main character gets the feeling that it will be almost impossible to defeat the rare eared monster. Killer rabbits are much rarer than goblins. It turns out that he will have to skip the goblins so as not to disrupt the order. One goblin killed, and he has to start all over again. The only thing that pleases Amachi is that these eared monsters also live on the second floor. If he manages to summon the boss there will be no problems at all. However, other monsters that the main character doesn't know about may also appear there. After a pause, Amachi suddenly laughed. He can't stop thinking about what other monsters he might encounter. The main character believes that at times like this, it is best to silently go into the dungeon. He should quickly see everything with his own eyes. The main character deletes the data and finishes his tea. He gets up from the table. He resolutely declares that he must try for Maki's sake and rushes out of the cafe. Amachi has no idea that other adventurers are watching him, and they strongly dislike his intentions towards Maki. The main character tirelessly walks through the dungeon, constantly checking the map. He discovers another goblin, who only has time to squeal before dying. This was already the 30th monster. The deadline for the task is only 2 weeks. However, the only thing the main character does is study the map. He realizes that he will not rest until he has explored every possible location. Yesterday, he only managed to explore 30%. However, this makes it easier for Amachi to focus on hunting. Goblins constantly appear, like mushrooms after rain. The growling alerts Amachi that another monster has been spotted. The main character realizes that it would be more effective to simply walk in circles. Ignoring the growl, the main character decides to start searching. Yesterday, he avoided prying eyes and exterminated 100 goblins, but that was a close call. Today, Amachi intends to be more careful so as not to overdo it and summon the boss again. He notices the tracks of the killer rabbit and finally kills the monster. The creature leaves behind a horn. Amachi switches to exterminating the killer rabbit after every 30 goblins. The satisfied protagonist discovers that the map is now completely unlocked. However, something bothers him. A group of people is following him. For several hours now, white dots have been following him closely, keeping the same distance and not disappearing anywhere. Since the strangers had passed this way, there should be no monsters left, but the monsters are still there, which means the pursuers are not hunting. This is definitely not how adventurers behave. The main character can only marvel at how much free time these strangers have. He realizes that he was wrong to announce his skill sphere to everyone. Amachi just really wanted to reassure Maki and assure her that it was he who killed the hobgoblin. Amachi wonders what to do now. He could run away, but he is not a criminal who needs to hide. There is an option to slip away unnoticed, but the time is not right for him yet. Of course, he could just ignore it, but because of the constant surveillance, the main character can't spin the gacha. Finally, the main character has the option of simply meeting the strangers face to face and talking, but it is unclear what the outcome will be. Amachi has never heard of cases of persecution, but he doesn't have any adventurous friends. If something goes wrong, Amachi will let Maki down again. Here he raises his head, delighted with his guess. He should just report what is happening to Maki. At the same time, the main character will still be able to ask for an appraisal of the items, and he is already hungry. Maki asks confusedly if the main character is really being persecuted. He asks what he should do in such a situation. The girl sighs, remembering yesterday. Meanwhile, the main character chews. He looks at Maki's lunchbox, wondering if she prepared it all herself. Amachi is happy to have the opportunity to have lunch with the girl, but if any of the adventurers find out about it, Amachi's enemies will be guaranteed. After thinking for a moment, Maki asks if the main character wants to go up to the second floor. He replies that he had planned to do so. The girl explains that there is a flat area there that is larger than the first floor. Strangers will no longer be able to watch Amachi unnoticed, and if they decide to continue their surveillance, the main character will have a chance to see their faces. Maki announces that from now on she will accompany the main character every time he goes down into the dungeon and asks him to trust her. Although this is a task for an exclusive agent, since the girl is a representative of Amachi, there should be no objections. Amachi can't believe his ears, although he is pleased with the news. Maki adds that it will be easier to identify the perpetrators if they work together. They will need to check the list of people who entered the second floor and compare the information to find out who these scoundrels are. The girl asks if the main character likes this plan. He claps his hands with joy. He is glad that he decided to consult with Maki. She laughs and says that it is an honor for her to help Amachi. The main character smiles and blushes. He really likes this arrangement. Maki is already very beautiful, but at moments like this, she becomes even more adorable. The girl offers to do an assessment, and Amachi agrees. Maki lists. In the morning, the main character killed about 230 goblins and 9 killer rabbits, obtained 197 small magic stones, 37 iron knives, and 2 eared monsters. The girl admires the amount of loot. She asks if the main character has decided to destroy the dungeon. He mumbles something in response, embarrassed. Laughing, Maki says she was just joking. Smiling gently and blushing, the girl praises Amachi. He blushes too. Leaving the office, the main character realizes that at this rate, he will soon fall in love with the girl. She asks the guy to be careful and wishes him a safe journey. Amachi also says goodbye to Maki. The main character feels that he is receiving too much attention. A whole crowd is indeed staring at him. So Amachi will not be able to find out who his pursuers are. Descending into the basement, the main character thinks he is leveled up and wants to spin the gacha. Unfortunately, doing so in front of the entire branch is clearly not the best idea. Moreover, it is unknown whether Mickey is watching him or not. Once downstairs, Amachi pulls out a map and walks past the other adventurers, heading for the dead end. On the way, he kills a couple more goblins. He even finishes off a killer rabbit that he miraculously spotted trying to attack him unnoticed. Then Amachi makes sure that no one can see him. He notices that his pursuers are a little behind. He decides that now is the perfect moment to spin a gacha. The main character presses the button, and a familiar sound is heard. 3 red and 7 blue balls come out. As the main character thought, purple ones are much rarer. He is pleased that he gets at least 2 red balls for 1 spin. There are 40 items left in the machine. Sitting on the floor, Amachi opens the balls. In addition to increased stats, he gains a new skill, first level throw. Looking at his status, Juuyoudatta wonders what this ability is. He doesn't have any items on him that he could throw. His thoughts are interrupted by a nasty laugh. Another goblin is sneaking up on the main character. He doesn't even need to get up. 1 blow, and the monster is dead. Noticing an iron knife, the main character decides to use it. Soon, Amachi reaches the 2nd floor. He immediately covers his eyes, shielding himself from the blinding light. He admires the beauty of the plain. The territory is vast, and the main character does not know how far it extends. The map only contained a vague description of this place. Then Amachi remembers his automatic mapping skill and voices the command. To his surprise, a 3-dimensional map appears before him. He was unable to summon one in the cave, so the wide plains clearly benefited Amachi's skills. However, he still doesn't understand how large this area is. He can only hope that this space is not endless. Amachi decides to just walk along the wall for now. He had heard about the plain on the 2nd floor, but according to the information, there was also a river here. In the distance, the protagonist notices trees and wonders what is there. He realizes that it will be difficult to fight in such a place. Moving forward, Amachi notices a stream. If you look closely, there's a goblin and a killer rabbit standing near the water. The main character decides to check the information to clarify what monsters can be found on the 2nd floor. It turns out that 4 types of monsters inhabit this place. Goblins are most often found in plains and forests. Killer rabbits are found near streams and in forests. Mountain wolves usually travel in groups and are found in mountains and hills. Finally, golems appear in wide rocky areas. These monsters are very difficult to spot from a distance. Nothing is known about rare subtypes of all types of monsters. Only the appearance of hobgoblins has been confirmed. The main character likes that the monster zones are separated, but there is a problem: how to understand where one territory ends and another begins. And if Amachi suddenly wants to hunt several species at once, such a division will only get in the way. The main character notices that killer rabbits are more common on this floor than on the 1st, and he thinks about starting with them. For now, he's just going to walk along the wall to complete the map. Amachi sees a goblin in front of him, but he doesn't have time to do anything, as it suddenly drops dead. The confused protagonist realizes that the monster couldn't have died on its own, and he sighs when he sees the familiar 4 dots on the map. He doesn't have time to do anything, because someone calls out to him sharply. Turning around, Amachi comes face to face with his pursuers, 4 adventurers. Pointing his finger at Amachi, one of the explorers asks aggressively who he is. Amachi remarks that he should be the one asking that question. The adventurer informs him that the main character is the very same slime killer. His short companion adds that it is more accurate to say slime hunter. The main character corrects them both, clarifying that he is a slime hunter. The young man with glasses announces that he has heard that Amachi has been appointed to a special position, even though he is from a remote dungeon. His hooded companion asks enviously if Amachi is really dating Maki. He saw the girl seeing off the main character. Amachi realizes that no one is even listening to him. A short, blonde-haired guy says that Maki is their goddess. Although he has no idea what this exclusive agent position is, he demands that Amachi not interfere with him. Soon, the adventurers are arguing with each other, trying to determine which one of them is Maki. Amachi just watches their verbal duel, wondering where he might have heard these voices before. Amachi recalls aloud that these same adventurers were harassing Maki in the morning. They respond in unison that they would never do such a thing. They were simply explaining to Maki, who does not yet have a contract, that they would soon achieve outstanding success in the dungeon and become worthy of her support. Amachi remarks that this is indeed pestering. He wonders why the adventurers are working together if each of them wants to sign a contract with Maki. In theory, they should be competing with each other. They look at Amachi in bewilderment and say that he just doesn't understand anything. The guy in the hood adds that it's hard to be a fool from the outskirts. Amachi thinks that branch 777 is not so far away, just an hour's walk. Adjusting his glasses, one of the guys graciously decides to explain everything to the main character. They do compete with each other a little, and contracts can only be concluded on an individual basis, but this is just the ego of adventurers. The main character asks again, not understanding. Patting the short guy on the head, the other adventurer continues his explanation. As sad as it may be, the four of them know perfectly well that individually they are not worthy of Maki, but if they work as a team, it's a different story. The adventurers proudly announce that they are the rising stars of this dungeon. As a team, they bring in more income, which is better for the beautiful Maki. Amachi thoughtfully notes that he understands them. He doesn't understand teamwork. Over the years, no one has wanted to join his slime research, and it was easier for the main character himself to be alone. He wanted everything he learned to belong to him alone. Amachi never thought about working with someone on a team and has no intention of changing that. He prefers to be a loner. Maki asked if the main character would like to hire a porter, but he doesn't want anyone to know about his gacha skill. He decides to continue working alone. The adventurers shake Amachi's shoulders anxiously, calling out to him endlessly. They say that he suddenly just stared at one spot and ask if everything is okay. He laughs awkwardly and replies that everything is fine. Remembering the morning incident, Amachi asks why the adventurers were keeping to themselves in the morning. If they're a team, one of the guys explains that it all depends on who is the center of attention. He believes that he should be the leader because he always attracts everyone's attention. The guy with glasses remarks that he is actually the brains of the team, who thinks through tactics and makes plans. The adventurer in the hoodie interjects that he is the one who has killed the most monsters. The short guy remarks that he is the leader who controls everyone from the shadows and that he has skills. Amachi realizes with fatigue that the adventurers are about to start arguing again. Watching their bickering, the main character can't decide whether they get along or not. So this is what a team is like. Maki must find it difficult to work with them. By the way, the four of them don't know yet that after the hunt, they will be reprimanded by the girl. Even if Amachi hadn't reported the surveillance, Maki would have noticed that the four were following him. The main character thinks it's hard when someone you admire scolds you. However, yesterday's reprimand even made him happy. Amachi returns to the four. It is not yet clear to him whether adventurers have any abilities. The only thing that is clear is that the guy with glasses used a skill when he killed the goblin. The main character decides to find out their names and uses assessment. The adventurers are between levels 16 and 19 and have similar equipment. The short guy is named Nishino Motoko, and his skill is surveillance. The most talkative of the four is Azuma Yusi, who has first-level leadership. The guy with glasses is Hoju Hiroshi, whose skill is first-level wind magic. Finally, the adventurer in the hood is called Minamata Takaru, and his ability is brute strength. Amachi is stunned to realize that everyone on the team has their own skill. At first glance, the four may seem like they're just fooling around, but in reality, they are all strong explorers. It seems that the adventurers didn't even notice that surveillance has no level, just like the main character's gacha. Most likely, it is thanks to this skill that the four were able to observe Amachi. The main character wonders why such strong adventurers are after him. Amachi stops the argument, announcing that he understands how much the four want to sign a contract with Maki. They are happy that he finally gets it. The main character wants to get rid of the four because he was going to hunt before it got dark. Amachi asks aloud why the team was chasing him. He adds that if the four are really strong, there is no point in resorting to such methods. They just need to put more effort into improving their skills, and they will achieve their goal. The adventurers stand there, stunned. Hoja notes that Amachi is right and that they behaved incorrectly. However, the only one to blame for this is the main character himself and his actions yesterday. He asks again, confused. The guy with glasses says that they heard that the main character defeated a rare monster on the first floor and received a rare reward for it, monstrous strength. Hoju adds that his job is to gather information, so the four of them know who Amachi is. However, if he is right, it turns out that as soon as the team found a worthy opponent for a joint battle, Amachi defeated him single-handedly. They couldn't believe it, so they decided to follow the main character. Hoju stares intently at the main character. Amachi realizes that the team is telling the truth. Indeed, it is hard to believe that an adventurer with a reputation as the weakest creature managed to defeat a hobgoblin. However, it's all about the gacha level. With its help, Amachi developed very quickly. Amachi remarks aloud that since the team is now talking to him, it means they understand something about him. Hoju says that this is indeed the case, and he announces their verdict. The main character is a madman. The latter snorts in surprise. Azuma agrees with his comrade's conclusion. The team is proud that Branch 525 is first in terms of daily deliveries. However, it turns out that the main character collected 100 magic stones in a few hours. Azuma is sure that this is not normal. Minamata adds that the four usually destroy about 200 monsters a day, and such a volume is usually terribly exhausting. He wonders how many Amachi has killed today. He admits that it's about 239. The main character realizes that he was worried for nothing, that he doesn't hunt enough. Azuma says that this is suspicious and asks if the main character isn't tired at all. He replies that of course he is tired, but he's just having a lot of fun. The four ask again in shock. Azuma decides that this is the difference between newbies and third-year veterans. The difference in daily catch is already very large and will only grow with each passing day. Azuma regrets that his team does not possess such stoicism. The four loudly declare that they cannot lose and rush off to hunt. Amachi watches the team walk away. They seem to be heading for the stairs to the third floor. Now the main character can focus on testing. He remembers how they called him abnormal and snorts. Perhaps killing 1,000 monsters a day is no longer just a dream. Amachi decides to fight cautiously. There's a risk of rare monsters appearing in places where people are present, so he cannot get too carried away. Moreover, if the main character kills 1,000 monsters, he simply won't be able to carry all the magic stones. He decides to finally try out his first level fire magic. Amachi goes online and searches for information about his skill. He learns that at the first level, he can use 2 spells, Torch and Fireball. These are activated and disappear mentally, meaning that there is no need to say the words aloud. The main character tries the Torch, and it works successfully. The spell is automatically maintained until the main character cancels it or loses consciousness. You can even close your eyes or hide the flame. However, if you get distracted for even a second, the fire immediately goes out. Amachi makes sure this is the case. As soon as he notices a goblin, the torch goes out. He decides that magic is useful, but he will have to concentrate on it all the time. Amachi isn't sure if he can use it in battle. He cuts down the goblin that distracted him and decides that it's not so bad. At least he has more ways to control the battlefield, which is just great. The main character would like to use both the torch and the fireball at the same time. That way, he could light his way through the dungeon and fend off enemies, and later, perhaps, use his sword to fight along the way. After all, Amachi now has the ability to fight from a distance. He just needs to train properly to use magic. The main character's attention is drawn to the squeaking of a killer rabbit. He sees 3 of them at once. Amachi didn't even notice how he wandered into the river area. However, the main character is only glad to see the killer rabbits. He aims at one of the monsters. He casts a fireball, smiling broadly. The spell hits the killer rabbit right on target, killing it instantly and leaving only a horn behind. Amachi is delighted. Now, if he hits his target, he can destroy the enemy with a single shot from a long distance. This will increase the effectiveness of consecutive kills. The main character decides to slash the next monster with his sword. The killer rabbit doesn't even have time to move before Amachi pierces it, and another eared monster in the distance is destroyed by a fireball. 2 horns and 1 crystal fall out. The main character happily collects the loot, realizing that he has managed to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. But fighting while focusing all his thoughts on magic turned out to be more difficult than Amachi had thought. It is even more tiring and difficult than fighting with a sword. In addition, when summoning a fireball, there is a delay of several seconds between casting and activation. The main character trudges wearily along the road. He has no strength left to concentrate and needs to rest urgently. But then, as luck would have it, Amachi encounters 2 killer rabbits, who immediately notice him. Breathing heavily, he summons a fireball. To Amachi's horror, everything blurs before his eyes. Sword falls from his weakened hands. The ball flies past its target and lands in the river under the gaze of the killer rabbits. The main character is overcome by chills and terrible nausea, something he has never experienced before. Not only did the main character barely manage to activate the fireball, but he also missed, wasting the spell. Amachi holds his head wearily. Suddenly, before the stunned main character's eyes, a whole wave rises from the river. It washes away the frightened killer rabbits. Amachi realizes that it was the fireball that stirred up the water and decides to take a chance. He reassures himself that everything will be fine. The main character raises his sword and kills the eared monsters. Amachi's level rises and reaches 7. The main character breathes a sigh of relief. His nausea has finally subsided. Amachi wonders what caused his illness. In addition, he noticed that the fireball was smaller than the first time. The main character realizes that since the chills went away with the level increase, the fatigue was due to the use of magic. Since his last level up, Amachi has used 14 fireballs. At level 6, his mana was at 41. It turns out that one fireball consumes 3 mana points. The main character was able to activate the spell despite the lack of mana, but when it reached 0, he suddenly felt ill. If this had happened during a battle with a strong enemy, Amachi would have had a hard time. From now on, he needs to control his mana. In addition, Amachi noticed something else interesting. Thanks for watching. Write your feedback in the comments. If you like the story, please like and subscribe. See you soon.